Hey, everybody in YouTube land. This is No Level Cop Podcast, and today we want to ask the question, WB, you got some explaining to do.
Yo, what's poppin', people? Welcome back to the No Level Cap Podcast with all your friendly neighborhood black nerds, where we cover all the anime, all the gaming, absolutely zero of the BS. I am your host, Sage Ashford. These are my co-hosts, Rakeem Beck, Will Coleman, Devin Butts, and Terrence Flowers. This week, we getting into something that has left me more than a little bit frustrated. As the biggest superhero fan on the show, specifically the biggest DC fan on the show, and even more specifically a huge Wonder Woman fan, you can imagine I won't even say surprise, just frustration that they canceled the freaking Wonder Woman game. It's not surprising because nothing had been done on it. We had just gotten a bit of investigative journalism from Jason Schreier over at Bloomberg. And so it's not surprising, like we found out that they hadn't really developed much, and then what they had done, they had to reboot. So it's like, okay, well, that's not really a shock. First things first, let's get this, let's say this first. My heart goes out to all the devs that lost their jobs because Warner Brothers, in their infinite greed and foolishness, has closed not one, but three studios: Player First Games, WB San Diego, and Monolith Productions. This is all behind some kind of shift of focus on like Harry Potter and Mortal Kombat and Game of Thrones and DC. But of course, specifically Batman.
Mm-hmm. Batman.
Bruce. Living a fucking nightmare. Every time superheroes come up, it's the same fucking shit. Oh my God. I've been trying to cuss less, but like this, it ain't gonna be this podcast. I can tell you that right now. So I just wanted to get into it. I saw this. I got pissed. And then I was like, oh, man, I'm tired. Like, I really have turned a corner on AAA games because of shit like this. Because it's every time I get excited about a game, it either take 6,000 years to come out, or it come out and it's disappointing because they chasing some type of games as a service tail, and you wind up getting like a game that it should have been something else, but instead it's like, oh, more of this Destiny-like BS. Or it just get canceled. And I'm kind of like, man, I'm sick of this AAA game and shit. Like, Japan got it figured out, but the West has lost its way, and it's been a long time coming. And now we looking at stuff like this, where Warner Brothers buys a studio and closes it down a year later because it's like, oh well, we're not getting the money that we thought we'd be getting. Like, you getting something, and then you can like optimize and figure it out. There was no need to close these studios, but then again, Warner Brothers is broke. So I guess they did have to close them studios down. So
WB stands for We Broke.
We broke. We broke, and where's Batman? That's it. That's all they know how to do.
That goes together. We broke. Where's Batman? Help us.
Batman do usually help broke folks. So I mean, I guess that's true. So what I wanted to do is talk about where does WB Games go from here. We got a couple of things that we want to get to. First things first, since we do have a bunch of Mortal Kombat fans on the podcast, I want to know, does NetherRealms go back to Mortal Kombat or Injustice 3? What do you think they should do, and what do you think they're going to do? Because those aren't always the same thing. We're going to start with Devin.
Personally, I think in this specific scenario, I think they should just go back to Injustice 3. After the bad taste that Mortal Kombat has left in people's mouth, I think we need like a break from that. It's because it's weird. This game was... Everybody can look at the game, has played it. They can tell. Everybody said it looked like it was Injustice 3. They just kind of switched something over potentially. We don't necessarily know if that's confirmed to be true, but a lot of signs hint that was the case. MK it's actually weird because in that one of those articles, it said that like three of the things that like missed the market, underperformed from last year was like Multiverses, Harry Potter Quidditch, and Suicide Squad. I'm like, y'all just gonna leave MK off? It probably did better in sales in most of those games. But
it sold well. It was just critically not what people wanted.
But I would have still put it in there because I mean, you dropped the DLC when that last year as well, and that underperformed. So it's like I think it off the basis of it being MK from the jump, all people gonna buy it. It's just gonna make sales off the name alone. But I think as people start playing that game and realize, oh, this game is undercooked severely, and that's when things started to be like, okay, maybe this game is not as good as we thought. You had a lot of people, they'll try to say, hey, this game is better. It's like, look, I don't care if it's your favorite series. I played Mortal Kombat since I was a child, since I was in single digits. I've loved this series my entire life. MK1 was just not a great game overall. MK11, MK10, MK9 were all better games than that game. And for the longest, people tried to say MK11, no, MK11, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, that game wasn't as bad. Like, no, that game was better than MK1 from the jump. Y'all just tried to, I guess, cope with it. I get it. You want your game to succeed, and a game that you like, you love to, be successful, but it just wasn't the case. I've had a lot of games that come out that I've liked, series that I've liked, or games like even what's the game? Callisto Protocol. I'm a big fan of Dead Space. I was hyped for that game. I've always said this, like that game was just not that great. It looked one of the best looking games we got, but it just wasn't a good game overall. So yeah, same, nothing's different from Mortal Kombat. And I even said to some more of my friends on another podcast I do that this game, a lot of decisions that were made with MK1, I just don't believe Ed Boon gave the green light to. I can't see Ed Boon agreeing to somebody bring it up. Hey, let's replace the crypt with a slot machine, and him saying yes to that. I just can't see him saying that, because Ed Boon has been like very active with those games. He always puts a lot of like content into his game. I just can't see him agreeing with that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's changed his way of thinking, the way he makes games, but I just can't see that. You cutting that type of content and then replacing it just with a slot machine. I just can't see that. I can't see him agreeing to $10 fatalities, seasonal fatalities. Like that makes no sense. No, I don't think any developer, I would never be like, hey, let's put a seasonal fatality in our game, and much less you have to pay for it. At the very least, it'll be free. I just can't see him saying yes to that. Yes to $10 announcer voices. Yes to like these $20 skins, I believe, some of like the old school skins. I just can't see him agreeing to that stuff. Maybe I'm wrong.
I can see it, because sometimes you get down, you sit down with like the suits above you, and they start telling you about the targets that you need to hit to justify the development budget that you have, and then they start throwing ideas out at you like, hey man, you might want to try this, and you might want to try that. And if you see like some obscene sales target, like, oh yeah, you got to sell 12 million copies, you like, fuck, it's either sell 12 million copies or start putting egregious microtransactions in your game, and you like, fuck, I mean, I have no choice. At least this way, if the game doesn't work out, I did it their way. They can't be like, oh well, you didn't do it like we told you, so you're on your own for the next game, or we might sell you or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they can get put in a rock and a hard place, but I don't know, man. I just wish that a lot of these people had less pull when it comes to like decision making. If you're the developer, you people, the ones that have the creative reign and power to do things, y'all should be the ones making decisions. I get it. They got the money, but it's like these decisions y'all making it's just like the workforce. I always compare this. The people that up top making the decisions don't know anything about what's going on. They've never been in the trenches to know what's happening. So they make these decisions for people that they don't know anything about. And it just, everything goes to just crap. And now they're like, oh, what happened? Because y'all making decisions is things you don't know about. Let us make the games. Let us make the good games that people want to buy. Because at the end of the day, making a good game that somebody wants to play that's fun, that's what's going to drive a sale. All these extra things, I get it. There's certain games that piecemeal you. You got your 2Ks, your Fortnites, but that's a free-to-play game. We got Madden, 2K, and those games are still successful, and they piecemeal people, but that's a certain crowd of people that just own and play those games. The same crowd that say that there's gaming is dead. So that's a little bit of a different, demographic. But yeah, I don't know, man. Ultimately, I think they need to go back to Injustice right now. They got to knock it out the park. Whatever they do the next, though, they have got to knock out of the park. Because if MK1 comes out like it is, and then the next game is kind of iffy, I'm gonna be honest, it's gonna be very rocky for NRS. I don't know. They might be in another downfall. I thought long gone were the days of MK versus DC, but I don't know. We'll have to see. They just gonna have to knock it out the park.
I mean, they could be in for worse than that. It depends on how ugly Warner Brothers wants to get. If Warner Brothers decides to be cool, if the next game doesn't work out, maybe they get sold. But if Warner Brothers decides to be a dick about it, they might be like, we are closing y'all. Like, or we're trying. we're going to try to sell you, but we're not going to let you have the Mortal Kombat license.
And
at that
where
point,
I see it going.
And once that happens, that studio's dead. Because what are you gonna do? Like, you're the studio that makes Mortal Kombat, and you don't have the license to Mortal Kombat. And like, nobody, and this was talked about. Jason Schreier talked about this on Kind of Funny Games Day, Gamescast. It was both. It got weird. They talked about. He was like, yeah, the reason why they can't sell a lot of their studios is because they thought they were going to be able to sell the studio and then get licensing fees for the IPs because they weren't going to let go of the IPs. And it's like, nobody's doing that. These games cost too much money now to do that. And then you have to not only buy the studio, but continue to fund the developers and pay a licensing fee. That's not happening. So like, when you look at Mortal Kombat, it's like, hey man, you know, if it don't hit, like Devin said, like, it could very easily be a scenario where they like, fuck it, we'll just close NetherRealms and then we'll keep the Mortal Kombat property and we'll just make movies out of it that nobody wants to see. And then like the occasional cartoon movie that people do kind of like, and then that's it. So I mean, it could get ugly real fast. So I do agree with you, Devin, that whatever they do next needs to be a hit. Rakeem, what do you think? Should NetherRealms go back to Mortal Kombat or just go ahead and hit up Injustice 3?
I mean, I wanted Injustice 3 after MK11. So I mean, personally for me, I wanted to, because I like the cadence of doing something different, because it gives you time to come with a fresh perspective with the game the next time.
Right.
And that's a lot of, you know, me and Devin we both play MK1. I had a different experience. I played it on console. I didn't really have all of the issues he had, but I still had issues because there were audio issues. It was definitely came out way too soon, which is weird because it's the longest development cycle they've had in a decade. So that was really strange. Usually more time means the game's more polished. This was not the case,
well,
which is why it gives credence to the game was recreated. Yet the rumor was true. It gives a lot more credence to that rumor. What I was disappointed was, like with Devin, like how you talked about with the game earlier, when I played MK1, I enjoyed the combat a lot, but I also noticed that like he said, content, like there's no crypt. I'm a big fan of crypt. I remember like back in college, me and fan of the podcast, Timothy Bush, who always watches and shouts us out, so I'm gonna shout him out today. We would talk about going through the crypt, and it's like, hey man, MKX had a dungeon crawler crypt. It was like first person. We would talk about, hey man, did you go through the crypt today? Hey man, let me watch you go through the crypt. This looks really cool. And then MK11 had an open zone crypt with third person. You had the hammer. It got kind of grindy, I ain't gonna lie, but it was a cool idea. Like the idea was cool. It was the closest thing we've gotten to like conquest mode, which MK fans have asked for it feels like almost 20 years now. Yeah. Like Return to Conquest, like that's that type of like content in the MK game that made them famous, where they had whole games in their game. That's just hard to do now because of like development costs. I mean, I played it. Devin knows I probably played it more than anybody on earth. I played it.
He indeed did play that quite a bit.
I played it, man. I wanted them skins. I actually liked it because you still unlock skins. You still were able to manipulate your characters, give them some customization. That was cool and all, but at the end of the day, it wasn't the content we were used to and the quality of content we were used to. There were a lot of bugs and issues. I had crashes. Me and Devin would play versus each other all the time, and then audio would just cut out. Or there were, issues in the background. I will say over time, and this is a positive, that they have fixed some things. They have added more content. They've made the characters more fun. They've added more cameos. They expanded some mechanics, made the game more fun and approachable in some regards. Some of the DLC characters are really cool. I think Noob Saibot's design in this game is amazing. I think he is the coolest he has ever been gameplay-wise ever. Maybe not visually, but gameplay-wise, coolest he's ever been. So in that regard, I like the fact that you can add content to it, but I do feel like the feeling that we have that we're getting a cheaper product, this is kind of inevitable because the encroachment of the practices you talked about, like the DLC and the skins, that kind of was already heading that direction. We didn't pay attention to it, but it kind of was like even MKX, when they started having paid skins, they expanded the amount of characters that were in seasons and how, multiple seasons, easy fatalities in in MK11. I remember that was the one I was like, "Ooh, this is weird. You pay to get an item to do easy fatalities. That's really strange." Like those were the warning signs. And I think MK1 is like almost the closer we've gotten to full on the encroachment of the worst parts of gaming in our game, where things become slot machiney, literally in this case, and you have these storefronts with skins everywhere, and somewhat of a battle pass system, and we can see that even about Street Fighter right now. But to get back to the question, to back on focus, I would prefer Injustice 3. I think that series still has a lot of potential. There's things they could do with it. I think a tag Injustice would have been cooler because that'd be like they're Marvel. And like and that's a strong IP. And if it had been a better, a good quality game out the jump, they could have really had fun with that. And MK kind of needs, I think I agree with Devin, whenever they're done with MK, we just got an announcement, the final season character and the new cameo, Madam Bo, the last cameo character. We don't know, what the rumor is that they've finished, they're done after this. They may add some more content, like little bit, but it might be the last full content. And I think there was I think I read either like Twitter or somewhere that they're already working on their next game. Whatever the next game is, they're already working on it. So it's likely that it could be Injustice 3 personally, but I know from the news that WB's invested in Mortal Kombat and they emphasize Mortal Kombat. It's way more likely that we're getting the next MK after this. They've been investing in it, like you said, with films, with animation, just really building the IP up. They're focused on their strongest IPs right now because they've been bleeding money. So they want to get wring as much money out of those IPs they can get until their popularity is, destroyed and they can move on from them, I guess. I don't trust WP at this point, man. They got some explaining to do, bro. Like, how do you mess up so many things back to back to back? And NetherRealm is close to me. MK is my favorite fighting game franchise, has been most of my life. I have a good connection with my friends, people like Devin on this podcast, people like Terrence, people like Will. I've played these games with, had fun for years. We've gone to tournaments. We had groups of people overnight playing in our apartment in college. So those games mean something. It means something to me, man. So I want to see the best with the franchise. I want to see the best foot forward. And the only way that's going to happen is if they, you got to have, it's almost like if you're in manufacturing business, a CAPA, a CAPA, a corrective and preventative action. Hey, what mistakes do we make? How do we not do this again? They need to have a CAPA. They need to have a moment, a come to Jesus moment where they pay attention to the issues they've had, address them, and really polish their next project. I agree with Devin completely on that one. They cannot have another stinker. And I would cry real tears if I saw NetherRealm shut down. Real manly black tears. If I see that, that's rough, bruh. That's rough. So I wish them the best. I personally want them to work on Injustice 3. I think that's a more interesting idea right now because MK is we just had all this content for MK, but it seems like WB's going to the MK well as much as they can. So I pray that they have the time now to polish up the game and make it where it needs to be for the next entry.
I do think they're early enough in the process that they may change. If they changed up, it wouldn't be as bad because it really does feel like, given the lengthy development cycle of MK12, that like they probably were pretty far along on that Injustice before they were like, you know what, let's just go ahead and get back to this Mortal Kombat. And the reason why I bring it up is because James Gunn, not too long ago, there was a news report where he was like, oh yeah, we've been in talks trying to get some DCU games off the ground. I don't know. I still worry about that just because he's still trying to like make sure they're tied to the universe. And I'm like, hey man, it's not gonna work out like that. They need to be their own separate thing. And in fact, more than that, they need to be their own separate like games. Like you can't tie them together. I know y'all all are under the same Warner Brothers umbrella. That hadn't helped you yet. So leave that alone. Just if you're going to make a superhero game, just let them all be separate. Unless they're all from the same development studio, and that's not, you're not doing that because it's just how game development works now. So, Will, what about you, man? Mortal Kombat 3, Mortal Kombat 12, or Injustice 3?
Well, I think from like being on the outside looking in and seeing how things kind of went with MK1, because I didn't buy MK1. I kind of let MK1 sit to the side this time, and I went with the other of the big names and played those more. And after seeing everything that is going through, hearing what Devin's went through with it, and seeing like a bunch of other people who play it and the people who play it like professionally and like at a very high level talk about the game, I think they need to go ahead and hop on the Injustice as well. And my reasoning for it is because I don't know if going to the next MK is really the sharpest move here. Because you already have gotten like a bunch of problems here with one, and a lot of people have complained. And I heard about the gacha mechanics. I've heard about a lot of people not very fond of like just how the game plays in general. At least for some people, I'm not gonna say for everyone, but just for some people, they weren't too fond of it.
Oh,
and then
tag team like assists, that was controversial at the jump. There are some people who they don't even care how it was implemented. They didn't want it at all.
Yeah.
Period.
Right. Yeah, like a lot of people don't fuck with the cameo system. I've seen that a lot. A lot of people do not like that. So I think it's time they went and took it back to straight up 1v1ing with MK. And I think that'll get a lot of people back because they're like, why do you have assists in this game? Because MK has never really been known for that. At least in my mind, anyways. But yeah, Injustice is where they gotta go. And Devin, I agree with you. They have to nail that. If they cannot nail an Injustice 3 and they screw that up, I'm on the same page as Keem. I might really shed that one tear if I hear NRS get shut down because they've been with us for so long. Like we've been there since the Midway days, and now we here, and hearing NRS get shut down it's like turning off an important light switch in the house, just and it's gone. Especially if you love fighting games, it'll definitely throw a lot of people out. Especially those who only play Mortal Kombat. Now they got to learn to get in under Tekken, and that's a whole can of worms to open up.
It's fun
for a lot of
it's
people
fun,
that play those games.
It ain't
It's
easy.
fun, but it ain't easy. And that's coming from me. And I've been fighting my ass up on that game. But yeah, Injustice 3 is where they have to go. Plus, I think it's time because I did like that whole back and forth they used to do where MK, Injustice, MK, Injustice. But now if you're finna break off from the pattern, you got a problem on your hands. Because I know you want your money, but sometimes you might have to get your money elsewhere. If it didn't work out too well here. Thank you. That's what I'm saying. All money ain't good money. But sometimes you just got to flip and try to do something different. You can't stay in the same path for the longest. What you say, Sage, in the chat earlier? Going down the wrong road, do you keep going straight till something good happens, or do you turn around?
Turn around. Hey, man.
Okay.
That's Warner Brothers in general. In fact, that's a lot of businesses. Like, hey, man, like, we'll just keep going down this path. Like, something good ain't going to happen. You trying to get somewhere. It ain't that road. You need to turn around. So,
right.
Terrence, what about you, man?
Since you all have already said a lot, I'm going to keep mine pretty brief because I'm pretty much just going to echo a lot what you all have said. What do I want? I want Injustice 3 like most of you, but what do I think WB is going to do? They're going to do another Mortal Kombat for the very reason that Rakeem said. It's the moneymaker. Like, I couldn't find the exact sales of the Injustice series, but Mortal Kombat is one of the highest selling fighting game franchise of all time, if not the highest selling. And
Smash,
in comparison,
behind Smash, ahead of or tied with Tekken.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, if you count Smash, I guess. Yeah.
That's a whole other podcast.
Yeah,
that's a whole other podcast.
Yeah, but yeah, they're gonna do MK because at this point they want money, and Injustice, while it should make them enough money, you would think, Injustice just won't sell in the way that Mortal Kombat will. Like, the Mortal Kombat name just carries so much weight. All the kids who want to be able to play that behind their parents' backs, you know, they're going to get it somehow. It's like, just the MK name is something that a lot of people want. And Injustice, I know people do want that, don't get me wrong, but I just don't think the sales are going to be as strong as what WB would like. You know, they want all the money. So, yeah, they're going to chase after MK2, 12, whatever the hell they call the next one. But yeah, personally, I would love to see Injustice 3 because I liked Injustice 1 and 2 despite their flaws. And the fact that it's a DC fighting game. You would think that wouldn't be complicated to do, but WB has somehow managed to F that up. So, yeah, I would want more Injustice 3, but they're more than likely going to do the next MK just because that's easy money. So it is what it is.
I'm similarly going to keep this quick because we are on a bit of a clock. But I will say this. One, it is funny that MK has always outperformed Injustice 3, given how popular Injustice has been as a brand. Like, you can't, when you're online, you see so many like panels and pages from the Injustice comic book.
Oh,
like
yeah.
they even made an Injustice movie. From what I'm told, it's not very good, but like they made it.
It wasn't.
You know, so you're like the third or fourth person that's told me that. So like I'm believing y'all. But I mean, they made it. As far as what should they do, they probably they need to do Mortal Kombat. And I do agree with Terrence, and this is the thing that I really wanted to get to, that you would think that the DC fighting game would have more juice to it. And if it were me, I mean, obviously it's not, because I Warner Brothers makes a lot of dumb decisions. If it were me, I'd be reaching out to like Arc Systems work and doing like a DC game through them, and then just letting NetherRealm do another Mortal Kombat, or like, because like they need that MVC type of hype, like, because Injustice is cool, but like you need something hype when you do superheroes, and like reaching out to a studio that is known for making hype ass video games, you could get that, and you could get it at a budget that's much lower than what Injustice probably is going to cost you.
There you go.
So that's what they need to be doing, looking into something like that, talking to because like when I tell you Arc Systems Works will support a game for years, it ain't even got to be that popular. Dungeon Fighter, that shit was not popular at all. They just kept adding characters to that.
Grand Blue. Well,
yeah,
they got some other money. They got some other money, but they still get support. On season 2.
Grand Blue is still going, yeah.
Technically, it's season 4, because this is a reboot. So this is
a
season
reboot
4
of the same game. Like that's it's just been around. It's not going nowhere.
And Guilty Gear.
Guilty Gear 2. So it's like I could imagine you get a fraction of the cost and get a similar level of game, and then I probably would make it 2-on-2 or 3-on-3 or something like that, and just try to go for the most hype game possible. That's what I would do, and then you could have Mortal Kombat on the side. So, next topic. So, one of the things that one of their priorities is Game of Thrones. Man, look, we saw the Game of Thrones video game at the Game Awards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's I forget who's developing it, but also apparently Warner Brothers Montreal is also working on a Game of Thrones game. And my thing is this: we get fantasy open world RPGs a lot. It may not seem like it. We don't get it as much as we get like other genre, like full genres, but we get open world RPGs like more, like very often actually. So like, you look at Avowed just came out, and that's an open zone, but it's still kind of the same vein. You had Dragon Age come out just last year. Next year, they had to delay it, but next year, Fable. Witcher 4 is coming out soon. Well, not soon, but like in the next few years. Yeah. And then you've got what's that one game from the Witcher
Come Deliverance 2 as well that came out recently.
Kingdom Come Deliverance 2.
That's low fantasy, but yeah.
That's not even fantasy. It's just a peasant simulator.
Medieval times.
But it is medieval. It is medieval. And then Dawnwalker. That's the one from the Witcher devs. That's another open world type fantasy RPG, dark fantasy, but still. And I mean, like, that makes you wonder, like, does Game of Thrones stand a shot? Like, is there enough behind that people will want to play it? Rakeem, you're a big Game of Thrones guy. What do you think?
Absolutely. I'm the target audience. I'm literally target audience.
There it is.
I've been waiting for this. Now, there has been like RPGs made before in the Game of Thrones franchise. It's not the first one, but they're always like, mediocre, lower, not as big of, kind of low, kind of mission based, like not really high quality, super good RPGs. A big fantasy RPG in this universe. I've been waiting for this for a long time. So I've been watching this game a lot. It's actually on Steam Next Fest, I believe. It's a demo. I haven't got a chance to play it yet. So I need to check that out. But I am the target audience for this. So I'm hyped. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm hyped. I think that right now, it's kind of them trying to cash in on the open world boom, just like people were doing with battle royales or doing with extraction games and roguelikes and things like that. The difference is with like open world RPGs, it seems like they're not multiplayer games, and so there's something to them, and there's crossover because people who play like good action open world RPG games, they kind of like to keep playing them. They don't stop. They'd like to move on, at least play something similar. So as long as it does something a little different, and that could just be the narrative Game of Thrones and how it's presented is a little different from like super traditional fantasy RPG. If they keep the writing good, the combat solid, and it's got enough RPG depth there, it can find an audience. Now, I don't think it'll be Kingdom Come 2 success, but it could be
actually,
enough.
It needs to be more successful because Kingdom Come 2, I think, is just now on 2 million.
Yeah. And it's been like a month.
It's been, they looking for Harry Potter.
Oh man, that's hard.
That's what they looking for.
That's hard. That's hard.
So that's what I mean when I say, does it stand a chance?
Yeah, because now, if with Harry Potter, that was one of those things, like almost what I said too, was that people been waiting for that game their whole life.
Yeah.
So that was like a once in a lifetime. Like, I've been waiting for this type of Harry Potter game. This hit at the right time for me. I have the nostalgia. So it could hit with that audience. This to me will determine how bad that season 8 did for Game of Thrones. Like, just how bad it was. Like, are there fans who still love Game of Thrones enough and who like open world RPGs, like, you know what, I'll try this out, I love this IP? Or do they hate that so much they see Game of Thrones on the title and they're like, you know what, don't even worry about it? That will say a lot to me about, because everybody said they were done with Game of Thrones after season 8, which, I mean, fair enough, it was bad. But how much nostalgia is still there in them, this kind of will determine that for me. But for me personally, I'm hyped. I want it to be successful. I hope it is successful. I think there is something there, but I don't see it hitting no Harry Potter. I'm not gonna lie about that.
What about Monster of the Wilds?
No fucking way.
Because that's what they're gonna be looking for. They looking for that. They looking for 10 million copies sold, 12 million, 15 million copies sold.
Nah.
And I mean, I think Warner Brothers. I don't think Warner Brothers can do it. I think Game of Thrones as a property can do it.
Definitely.
If it looks good enough, and it's like kind of like when Sony announced that they were making a Spider-Man game. Like, you'd played Spider-Man games before, but you had never seen that level of polish and then like from a studio with that high of a pedigree, and like the hype was there instantly. And like that's what Game of Thrones is gonna need if they gonna get to like the success that Warner Brothers wants.
And we're talking about like Monster Hunter and other games. Like, what Warner Brothers has to understand is that to get the sales like that, you got to build equity.
Yeah,
you got to build trust.
Yep.
Sometimes you got to have some smaller projects that do well, and then eventually they kind of get to that point because the fan base is trusted in the IP. Monster Hunter had been good for a long time. It just hadn't been done to that scale yet, and that's why it hit the heights it hit. That's what they have to understand. But as far as what I've seen from the game already, I think it's decent, but I don't know if it's enough from what I've seen. It's like the biggest, greatest game of all time kind of thing. I don't really see that from it. I think it's just a decent open world RPG action game in the Game of Thrones universe. I think it's going to do okay.
If we being honest, Harry Potter did look like it was fulfilling a fantasy, but like the reviews came out, the reviews was like, yeah, it's good. They didn't say it was great. They just said it was good. And that was all Harry Potter fans needed to know. They was like, that's enough for me.
That's enough. Hey man, every game ain't got to be the greatest game of all time. I'm okay with that.
Now that's facts.
Right.
I love Avowed. It is not the greatest game of all time. I think it's good and decent, but it's not the greatest game of all time, and I'm okay with that. I'm
13 hours in. I hit the second segment, and we'll talk more about this in a couple of weeks. But like, I hit the second area. I'm like, this is an 8, but I'm like, that was what I wanted. I just wanted a good 8 that I could sit down and just play a open world RPG. So I mean, I if Game of Thrones hits that, and then they have the right budget have the right marketing budget behind it, then maybe. But I still don't see it hitting no Harry Potter because that's just like an absurd ask. That game outsold every other game that year. Handily. It outsold Call of Duty, and that should let you know something. Yeah, right? Will, what do you think, man? Does Game of Thrones, is it going to hit the heights that Warner Brothers is looking for?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and keep my answer a little bit brief because, well, I'm not a Game of Thrones type of guy. I didn't really sit down with the show, so I don't necessarily have like any disdain or any love for it. I just know it exists. So if you're asking for that, coming from me, no, I don't see it necessarily hitting it, but I do agree that if they want those numbers to hit, the marketing got to be right. They got to make sure that game comes out at least very polished. It has to hit a lot of those RPG open world hallmarks. It has to hit them. It has to do them well. it has to. I'm not gonna say it has to follow the show beat for beat. I'll say that now because a lot of
the
games.
new game is set like what before
set
or
in the
after?
middle.
the
It's
in the
during
middle?
because Jon
Oh,
Snow was
okay.
in the game. It's in,
Okay.
it's in the story.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So it's somewhere in the middle part of
It's
it.
like a
He
side
at the
story.
he at the wall, so they ain't even at the end. So yeah, there's
Okay. Well.
it's in the
Okay.
middle. It's
Well.
like a side story.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, then they need to try to hit that as well as they possibly can. That's the only way I can see it. If they want to get close to those numbers, they got to knock it out of the park better than they can. Because if they mess around and put this out and it's just middle of the road and it don't do nothing for anyone who loves it and it doesn't do well enough for people who want to try it, and you already got the people who don't really fuck with GOT anymore like that. I mean,
Kima, you would know
do it.
better than me.
Yeah.
So-
Is this game wasn't this game mobile too?
I was just about to bring it up. I'm
Oh,
realizing, isn't this like a
no.
free? Is this like a free to play game? Because I remember watching it. It doesn't look like one,
So
No,
but it does
I'll-
have mobile. Yeah.
I was going
Yeah.
to that was going to be part of my answer
Yeah.
is that I don't think people are talking about enough that this is an
Yeah.
iOS and Android game that's
It
also
is.
a PC release. This is not on
Oh.
consoles, so
Oh,
I don't know how this
Yep.
is going to work. So sales wise, I definitely don't see this getting up there.
Yeah,
That's
no.
a good
Well-
point, Terrence. I was thinking about it after I finished, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this is on mobile, and it's not really marketed as a console release."
Ooh.
I'll
To be
say
fair,
this.
it could do well on mobile. Don't get me wrong, but that is
Genshin
a
Impact
choice.
on mobile.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
but it's
Genshin
on
Impact.
consoles.
That is
And
Genshin Impact.
that's that Hoyo money. So by all means.
The whole your
And
purse.
Just to be clear about
Yeah.
this, Genshin Impact, all those games, we talking. I know for Genshin Impact for sure, they spare no expense, even though the game can sometimes, like with the animation of the faces and stuff, can look cheap. They really spare no expense. That game, they spend $200 million a year on that game.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's the big difference right there. It's like I'm gonna be
Mhm.
quite frank. WB is not spending that on this game,
No.
so I'm
Hell
not
no.
comparing it to Genshin because they're in a whole other league. This is not gonna do that.
That's a good point. Well, Terrence, I mean, like, what do you think, man?
So yeah, a Game of Thrones game, like Rakeem said, once again it comes down to WB where it's like they have these IPs where it's like you would think this is a surefire hit. Like you just could put on blindfold and throw darts at the wall and you're gonna hit a target regardless. But WB just somehow they took their head off in the process, so they just don't they don't know what they're aiming at or anything. Like I don't know, man. Like this should work, but I have my concerns. I know I was reading stuff about people who play the demo because it is out there now, and there has been positive response to it. But once again, this is a game that's on mobile and it's on PC. And they haven't established if it's going to be free to play or if you're going to have to pay for it. I would imagine with the way the game works, that is something you would actually pay for because I don't know how free to play would work in this particular sense. Like you could. I feel like if you're going to go down the Genshin path, this game would be very different. This functions almost like I saw some people say is more like almost like an MMO style open world RPG, like the way that it plays and everything. I haven't played it myself, so I can't comment on that. But just based on what I've seen, that's what people are saying. So I have I'm skeptical. I'll put it that way.
I'm
Like,
looking at Combat right now, and I'm like, I don't know how the fuck you running this on a mobile game on like iOS.
yeah,
There's a lot going on. Oh, never mind. I see it. I see the touch screen. Like hit the touch button.
yeah.
Press A to awesome. I'm seeing it.
It's just
Okay.
kind of weird that this isn't on consoles, though. You would just think that if you're going to put it on PC, why not also just put it on PS5?
I think that can still happen.
Yeah,
but
it more likely will. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
It's just like Genshin, like how that took a while to get to PlayStation.
yeah,
And it took a while to get to Xbox. So I think it'll be like that.
yeah. Well, if they make it free to play and they have like some kind of gotcha mechanics or whatever in there, maybe it will be fine. Maybe, but if it is just a straight up just you pay once and you play it kind of game, I don't know. I'm just skeptical with the route that they're going. I hope it does well. Like this isn't a case where I want it to fail. I do want it to do well, but I just don't have my hopes up for it.
Well, fortunately, the demo is up. So,
Yeah,
Rakeem,
just
if you
try
want to check it out, and get back with us.
Yeah.
I may
back.
check
I will.
it out. I appreciate that. Actually,
I
next
know.
week, in a couple weeks, we will have like a little thing on this. So, and the other reason why this is probably console is because, or not console just yet, is because it is from Netmarble. It's not from one of Warner Brothers' normal studios. Netmarble is like a South Korean game developer, and so they probably do want to prioritize what will work best in their country, and then we'll figure out mobile and
style
PC
games.
type stuff. And so they'll
That's
figure
fair.
out how it's
I
going to
played a
work
few
when
of
it
their
gets over here,
games,
like when
so
it
yeah.
finally comes out. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's fair.
Devin, I know you got to go real quick, so you want to give us your take on the Game of Thrones game?
So I also saw this on Steam Next Fest and wanted to play it. I just want to try it out because I'm not too hot on the WB games right now, but I want to at least see is this like something that's going to be serviceable. I will say though, you would think that they would choose a different IP to like be experimental with like what they're releasing it on, because this is game. If you're quoting saying that Game of Thrones is one of the games that you're focusing on is one of the big three, then why would you not treat it as such? And not that's the treatment of a game that's like a smaller game, in my opinion. But if you're saying this is one of the games you're focusing on, why not put the net cast it as far as you can? To me, that doesn't make sense. This is and also like what King mentioned, it's like you're focusing on Game of Thrones, but it's like you've never really had a lot of Game of Thrones games that were decent. Like the one I always remember to come up to mind is
Telltale.
the
Yeah,
Telltale
games.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, this ain't like a series you've been doing for so long. That's like had a lot of good games. At least in Harry Potter's case, you've had Harry Potter games since PS2, you know. So you've at least had a long catalog of games, and just the most recent Harry Potter has been like the best one that's ever come out. So I don't know. It's just a lot of games in this type of arena. We even got Fable coming out soon. I think it was getting pushed back a little bit.
Got pushed back to
2026.
2026. I think that's probably because of GTA.
Yeah, I can see that. So you got a lot of games, like open world games. I don't know. Like I said, I looked at it. It looks okay from like the eye test. It looks decent, but again, that's just only half the battle. You got to
you
play
get the controller in your hands,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I will say, excuse me, I will say that sometimes when a game it's on mobile, I don't know. Mobile has evolved so much now that like you get a lot of good games on mobile now. A lot of times you get games that very good looking games on mobile. But I don't know. Sometimes there's just this little there's a feeling of just like, I don't know what's the term I want to use. Cheapness. I don't know. When you see a game that's mobile and then it's also console. Because there's this one game called The Hidden Ones, I believe. I keep seeing this game. It's mobile, but also console. It looks cool, but I'm like, when I see them touch screen, I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, there's just something about seeing it that makes me think like low budget, but it's not necessarily the case. So we have to see. We have to see how
that game. No, I saw Max play Hidden Ones. Man, it looks. I can't say because I didn't play it. But it looks like, it looks like a real game.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I've seen it. I'm like, this looks like something that's decent. But when I see them touch screens, I'm like, man, like, I don't know. Maybe I have to like get that out of my head. But I guess the combat has to be decent. You had to have some decent storytelling because the main character is just like he's either a character or a new character, if I'm not mistaken.
He's got to be a new character because you're not playing as I don't think you're playing as Jon Snow. He's just in the game.
I need to play it because when I saw it, it looked like he was a made character, but now they only showed that character.
Yeah,
I've
only seen him in the screenshot.
So he looks like an original character. He definitely isn't from Game of Thrones.
Okay. I don't know. I feel like because I felt back in the day, was WB involved with those Lord of the Ring games back in the day on PS2?
No,
am I mistaken?
Wait, I think so. Actually,
yeah.
You're talking about the ones like Two Towers and Return of the King, right?
Yeah,
the ones that were like actually good.
The actual good,
the actual good games.
I don't know why those games are coming to mind. Just because they weren't.
That was EA. Wasn't it?
EA.
Well, yeah, EA. I guess.
Okay.
Well, I knew it was EA that made them, but I thought maybe like WB had some part in there. Like,
they probably did the publishing and everything. So
okay. But I always think of those games back on PS2 and like those are some solid games. And like, I hope we can get an experience that's at least comparable to that in today's age with gaming. I like I said, my first thought was like, this is a series you haven't done a lot with. So for putting it on its shoulders, it's got to be one of the big games you focus on. Y'all gonna have to deliver. Because like King mentioned, like I said, you could barely think of most Game of Thrones games. And like Sage mentioned, one I always think of is a Telltale's game. That ain't even a conventional like RPG. That's a narrative driven game. So we're gonna have to see if this is a series y'all banking on, it's gonna have to be good. Because like even King mentioned, y'all mentioned before, the show, that ending was really screwed over a lot of people. So y'all gonna have to get on good graces. And if y'all come out with just some run of the mill game, like I don't think that's gonna do enough for the fan base to want to play this game. I mean, a lot of people there's like I'm pretty sure a good portion of people that love Game of Thrones, they probably don't even play games. So it's like,
I mean, the same thing happened with Harry Potter. Really, like they came for that game, that IP.
Yeah, but I mean, you think about Harry Potter again. That's a fan base that has been ingrained since like forever, since we was in grade school. Game of Thrones hadn't had that. Like, and you have somebody actually really good Harry Potter game come out with that fan base. It's like, hey, we saw what the numbers did. So I don't know. I watched Game of Thrones like maybe the first 2 seasons. So I didn't finish it all the way. So I know a little bit about it. But if they come out with a decent game, I wouldn't mind playing it. But they gonna have to, if it's one of their heavy hitters, y'all gonna have to do something.
Should have made Jon Snow the protagonist. I would have bought it day one.
That also, like, why not just
I will say real quick that with the success of House of Dragons, it feels like the Game of Thrones universe, like it's still going strong. Like people are still tuning into it. So I think the audience is there for it. It's just a matter of WB hitting the execution on it.
They have another spinoff coming soon too, as well, I believe.
Yep. So there is still a huge audience because House of the Dragons is one of HBO's best performing TV shows.
Loved it.
Yes,
yeah,
it
exactly.
is.
So I mean, like, it just depends as far as like whether or not they're gonna how this game is being treated. It's really gonna depend on how good the game is, because I mean, like, you're teaming up with a studio that is not one of yours, and so like if the game is well received, you could easily just be like, all right, we'll just throw a bunch of a big marketing budget behind it, while you iron out whatever kinks you need to iron out, add content. Because I assume this is if it's a Genshin like similar to Genshin, I assume that you'll be adding content to it over time. If it's just a paid one-time premium game, then I mean you can just put it out on console when it's ready. So we'll see. The last topic, this is a little bit more. This one was for me. I'm gonna be honest with you. So one of the things that DC said was, or one of the things that Warner Brothers said rather, was that they wanted to focus on DC, but they specifically said Batman. And like, we know for a fact that Rocksteady has gone back to working on Batman, it seems. And I'm going to give you the contrarian answer, and then I'm going to let everybody else give you the regular answer. The question is, do we really need more Batman games? And from my perspective, no. The old folks used to have a saying, this is a wild one. You kind of tore your ass with me. Like I'm tired. Like with Arkham, I never really liked the look of Arkham. They were great games. They were well-made games, and I love the combat. But I never really liked how the characters kind of related to one another. And I always thought they were very, not graphically, but artistically, like the art style of them, I thought they were ugly. I always thought they were ugly games. Aside from Origins, I thought Origins like looked more like the comics that I would want to see. And then like the Arkham games, I was like, man, why is everybody dirty? Like, why is everybody like? I know it's Gotham, but damn, it looked like nobody in this game has seen a shower ever. And I mean, like, even like the regular characters, like fucking Gordon, I'm like, bro, like, wash up, just wash up, my guy. But like, I never really rocked those games. I was like, why is Tim Drake dating Barbara Gordon? Like, that's not his girl. Like, what? He don't. Why is he got a shaved head? He look like Eminem. Like, what's? They was just never like. I would play them, and I'm like, okay, this is cool, but like, And then like they really told their ass with me with Gotham Knights, because like that was the game that I dreamt about as a kid. Like, I can't tell you, like, even like going back to like 20 years ago, I was reading Robin and Nightwing comics, and like I shotgunned all of Nightwing because I got into Nightwing late, and I shotgunned like 70 issues in like a month. I was just reading because I just love both of those characters. I love Robin. I shotgunned 100 issues of that in like a month and a half. I love those characters. And for them to screw up so badly, not just like the game being like a games as a service, so it's like clearly being greedy, You only had 4 fucking bosses in it. I'm like, I don't know what the hell y'all was thinking on that, other than like, oh, you know, you can replay them so we can give you more content later. We can piecemeal the content out to you like you do with all the games and service games. But not only that, but like you fucked up the relationships between some of the characters. You got Jason Todd being like a big brother to Tim Drake. He big as hell for that. That's for sure. I don't know why he was that swole. I don't know why he was a fucking giant. That was weird.
And
but
he's
also
a gun
like,
dude. That doesn't make any sense.
he don't need to be big like that. I think they just wanted some visual differences between the characters.
Yeah.
And I mean, I get it, but like just make them play differently. That's what you really need to focus on.
There you go.
And like the fact that he was like, they tried to set up like a little big brother, little brother relationship between him and Tim Drake. I'm like, no, he hated Tim. He hated Tim for replacing him. Like, that's not how that worked. And then like you tried to make Tim just like a regular like nerd where they like poked fun at him and shit like that. I'm like, no, they was all nerds. Like, that's the superpower of the Batman family. Like, they got to be smart. If they not smart, who are they? They just some dudes that know a little martial arts. That ain't gonna get the job done. You got to know.
Power Rangers.
They hell, they Power Rangers without the powers. They Power Rangers that can't morph. That's who they would be. I can't have
Rangers.
that. They just Rangers. They ain't got no power. Shit. So I mean, like, no, I mean, like, you had the attempt. You attempted the thing that I wanted the most, and you blew it. So now I'm assuming you go back to just solo Batman in the Arkham universe where everybody knows Bruce Wayne is Batman. Which I'm like, so how scary can you really be? Like, they all know who you are. Like, you took away the fear factor. So like, I don't know how that plays out unless they just reboot the franchise and just do or like do an earlier game. But even that, like, people don't really like midquels. They want or prequels. They like hey man, I want the next adventure in this story. And like the next adventure after Arkham Knight is gonna be really hard. Even in Suicide Squad, like when you looked into like like they took you to the Hall of Justice and you saw like the lore, and they just basically said eventually like they knew who Bruce Wayne was, and then Superman was like, hey man, you got to stop all this weird shit and come work with the Justice League. And now apparently that's what happened. And I was like, I don't know about this. So I'm upset on that. And it's just like, there are so many other heroes that you could have done. And not only did you give up on Wonder Woman, you gave up on Flash, you gave up on Constantine. All 3 of these characters have like fan bases. Like, there have been like Constantine. If you had told people you was making a Constantine game, there would have been hella people like, oh shit, I kind of fuck with Constantine, and you could have got something out of that. If you hadn't, like, you had to scope it properly. Like, obviously you can't build that game like it's gonna sell 8 million copies. But if you had scoped it properly, you could have made a great Constantine game that fans would have loved you for. But instead, you fucked it up. Flash got a huge audience, and they was like, "Oh, we scared because of the movies." I'm like, the movie? Like, I understand, like, not all gamers are smart, but they're not that damn dumb. If the game has nothing to do with the movies and it takes 6 years to come out, by the time it comes out, people will have forgotten about the movie because the movie was ass. And so it's like, oh, this looks cool. It doesn't look anything like the movie. It's clearly set in another universe. I'll try it out. And Flash has an audience. Like, that show didn't run on CW for like a decade for no reason. Like that.
That's a good point.
So like, I don't understand why you gave up on that. Wonder Woman, I mean, I understand the second movie didn't do too well, but the first movie did gangbusters. And like the fact that you just couldn't figure it out or wouldn't give them the time to figure it out after you hoed them in the first place by having them by kicking them off that original IP, I just don't get it. And to tell me now the answer is more Batman games, I'm like, see, this is the problem. Like like you see Marvel over there, they got Spider-Man, and yeah, they're milking Spider-Man. He's on his 3rd game, and I mean Miles Morales is one of them, but like still, he's on his 3rd game. But like at the same time, like they doing a Wolverine game, they doing an X-Men game, they doing an Iron Man game, a Black Panther game, a Black Panther and Captain America game. They got Marvel Rivals, like, and they got Blade. They eating over there. Like, if you a Marvel fan, you fucking eating. And Warner Brothers' answer is like, hey man, we gonna make some more Batman. And that's why I never let it go. When Terrence said this years ago, he was like, WB stands for Where's Batman? And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. Fucking crazy. So no, I don't think they need more Batman games, but yes, I do think it's gonna sell. Now, how they make it work with like it being post Arkham Knight, I don't fucking know. Rakeem, you're a huge Arkham fan, so I want to get a contrasting opinion. What do you think?
Oh yeah, I'm a big fan of Arkham. I played Arkham Asylum, Origins, City, and Night, unfortunately. And,
I bought it day one. I saw that DLC pass. It was like $50. I said, I spent 60. I said, oh, y'all got
Spin it again.
Spin it again.
man,
Open your
I
wallet.
actually I was the opposite of you, Sage, with Arkham, how I felt about it. Growing up, I liked Batman. I wasn't a huge fan, like super fan of Batman, like everybody else was. I guess I was more into anime heroes by the point I got older than I was these comic book heroes at that point, and Star Wars, of course, and stuff like that. But when I played Arkham Asylum, especially Arkham Asylum, to this day, looking back at it, I've thought about it. I've kind of wrestled which ones I like the most. I like Origins a lot. I like City a lot. But Arkham Asylum, the intimacy of that game, where you're in this area and you know everybody in this building is an enemy, and you can't just run up on these dudes because they know you there too. And there's like a sneaky kind of like tension everywhere you go when you play it. I love that game. Like the feeling of that game, the stealth elements, the action. It was so innovative at that time. And of course, they iterated on in City, made it bigger. And then Origins, going back and doing the story and the one night kind of thing
That
worked
was
out
dope.
very well. That was dope. And then we got to Night, and they just didn't come together the
Have you
same
seen
way.
the people trying to like rehabilitate Night?
You can't do
Pretend
it
like it was actually good.
And then I think what was the death knell for Night? I believe I had got Night and Witcher 3. It came out either like close around the same
The
time or
month
after.
before.
The month
Witcher 3 came
before.
out in May, and Arkham Knight came out in June.
And when I played Witcher 3, it was over with. I wasn't going back to that game. It was so much better in every way. Like I was like, bro, I can't do this. Even if you love IP, if the game is bad, it's bad. We talked about this earlier. You can't cope. Devin said earlier, stop coping. If the game is bad, it's bad. I'm sorry. But yeah, I do want to see an iteration of a Batman game, but I'm not gonna lie. As much as I like the Arkham universe, I like the games, I kind of want a new experience. So if they do go back to the Batman world, it needs to be some shit like Resident Evil 7 did. It needs to be completely different. It needs to be a different interpretation, a different gameplay style, something stylistically where I can tell they thought about it, iterated on it, and tried some new ideas. One cool idea they could do is like, hey, this is a Batman game, but this time we're going to use other characters from DC and not just the Batman universe itself. Like a few characters here and there.
Hey, you could.
That would be something dope. Yeah,
you did like a Batman game that had Green Arrow in it.
Yeah,
Black Canary, Huntress. Like you.
It could be the street hero, like you said. Hey, it's a Batman game. We got a couple missions, Green Arrow, a couple missions with Huntress, and now the gameplay's changed. I'm like, oh, this feels different. Now I'm playing Green Arrow, and I'm fighting long range, man. Maybe I'm fighting different villains. Maybe Bullseye's in this. Like, oh shit, that's something that would shake it up enough for me
I'll be clear.
I
know what I said, but like Rakim's version, all the things Rakim is saying are the things I would need to hear to buy another Batman game. Reworking it, not doing the same Arkham type shit, doing a whole bunch of street heroes that aren't just Batman. All those things, check. I'd be back in.
Yeah.
Do you want Brave and the Bold the game?
Exactly.
Yes. Yes.
I'm not joking. I was just about to say that actually. Like Batman Brave and the Bold, my eyes are like, whoa, Batman can be a conduit for the DC universe. Kind of like how back in the day when he had the Superman anime series and Batman anime series, we get guests and shit like that sometimes. I mean, cartoon shows back in the day just did that. Like Spider-Man had hella guests, you know.
Oh yeah.
You always get crossover, especially with the Marvel stuff. Marvel was better about the crossovers, I think, overall, but DC used to definitely do them. And hell, Justice League Unlimited, that's just the show.
Static.
You know, that's the whole show. So that would be what I need to see. I need to see something a little different. We had the Robins in the game. We had Catwoman in the game. They brought the Joker up. Even when he was dead, he was still involved with the story. I'm like, bro, we got to shake this up a bit. If you're going to do a Batman game, maybe it's not Arkham. Maybe it's a new title for Batman and a new idea. And maybe these cameos can help you, if it's a success, branch out and make spin-off games for these other characters. And then now you're rolling. Now you can make something work with that. And that'll give the studio some opportunity to expand their range. Because I also played Gotham Knight as well. And I wanted that game to work. I played with some friends of mine. We liked it a little bit, but when I played it, something just didn't feel right. I don't know if it was the gameplay itself. it was something. The game of service really kind of, you could feel like, man, something's holding this game back.
They swore
And
it wasn't a games as a service game, and then finally it came out like, oh yeah, it started as that, and it was that for a long time.
Yeah.
And then they just took those elements out because they saw what happened with Avengers and shit.
Yeah, you can always tell when something's off with the game when you're playing it. I was like, something's off with this. I'm just not feeling it like I did when I first hit a dude with a 15-hit combo in Batman. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm here. But yeah, that's what I need personally. I love the Arkham games. At some point, I need to replay Arkham Asylum and Arkham City again because I love those games. But that's what I want to see, and hopefully, if they can do that kind of new direction, I'm all for Batman coming back. I think they will. I think it can succeed. But I have talked to some people I know that have Batman fatigue, not just you. There are people who, I know my best friend, Robert, I asked him, he wanted to see that Batman movie a couple years ago. He said, I'm tired of Batman. He straight up said it. I do not want to see Batman. I'm tired of Batman. And it's fair. We've had Batman our whole lives. We haven't had a break from Batman. Like really, cartoon, television, movies, spinoffs. Penguin came out last year. I'm like, even the universe surrounding Batman has been omnipresent. This dude is everywhere. Yep. And I don't know, man. It might be time for like a little bit of a shakeup. That's all I'm saying.
Agreed. Devin, real quick, I want to get your answer. What do you think about Batman before you pop out?
Well, I know we got all the acronyms. Now I think when it comes to DC, WB stands for what, buddy? Don't care. You're getting Batman. So you know this. The first thing I gotta say though is I know Clark Kent is just like he got the Arthur Fist, just like, please, like we always
let me fly through rings, please.
Like Superman is Squidward at the top of the house looking out and watching Batman. Well, really just Batman play by himself. It's like, bro, like. The fact that we don't have a good Superman game in the year 2025 and people still have this rhetoric that we can't make – shut up. I don't want to hear this. I don't. You see how many games we have? All this. You see Final Fantasy 16, you tell me we can't make a Superman game, all this crazy stuff going on, flying and stuff. Like, I don't know. I guess people are like, they're scared that it will be bad, but it's like we've had bad games before. We had Superman 64.
One of the worst games of all time.
One of the worst games of all time, man.
Looking back, that game scarred that dude's legacy. That shit crazy.
What's crazy is that he got games after that.
He did. Yeah, he did. And they still weren't that great.
Games after that, and they weren't that great. But I'm saying people still just talk about Superman 64.
Yeah.
I guess because like the games that came after was so mediocre, they was like, I don't want to talk about mediocre.
Because that was one that was supposed to come out on the Xbox at the time. That was like the one, this is going to be the Superman. And it wasn't. It was garbage.
They had one for the Xbox that was like supposed to be like comic book Superman.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't inspired by no movie. It was just going to be comic book Superman. And it was still not that good. It's like, fuck.
So I'm just, as I get ready to go to work, I'm going to leave y'all. I just don't understand. Like, it's like, They focus on Batman so much. I remember since like even Super Nintendo, but I remember Terrence playing Batman Vengeance on GameCube. Oh, yeah. That at the time was like probably the highest echelon Batman game we had. Yeah. And it's like ever since been Batman. You got so many characters in this universe. A Flash game would be dope. A good Green Lantern game, like a Lantern, that would be dope. But it's just like
it would be.
Yeah. But also it's like they focus on him in the movie, so I guess it kind of like, well, he's been like our cash cow kind of with the film, so we're kind of just do the same thing with game. But it's like, bro, when you have a comic book universe is that rich with this many characters, you have so much to do with the games. Like you could do so much, and I just hate to see them just focus on Batman, especially because Superman hasn't had a good game ever. It's ridiculous. Like, I just can't believe you disrespect Superman like that. And then people, like I said, people keep saying you can't make one. Yes, you can. They just don't want to.
Can.
They don't want to put the effort into it. And now with WB, I don't know if I want them to try to make a Superman game. They screw it up.
What's crazy is that one of the things we did find out, and I know you got to go, so when you head out, just I understand. What's crazy is we found out that like Superman, not only was they not working on a Superman game, they've never been working on a Superman game. Like there was never one in development over the past decade. Like they just were like, for what? Let's get Suicide Squad.
And it's funny, like I remember I saw a video I showed Rakeem, some like developer, this one man group, he like making some game. It was like a Japanese game, but it was like, oh, y'all see you can't make a Superman game, huh? Well, I do it myself. And he was like showing like a proof of concept dude flying around this open world city fight. I'm like, it's crazy that people is like one dude is like, hey, it can be done. Well, like y'all just don't want to make it. But
there's so many examples of Superman-esque games like Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. Like you could just do like it's easy to do Superman. Well, not easy, but like you could do Superman if you wanted to. They don't want to.
It's very achievable. But like I said before, WBDC stands for what, buddy? Don't care. You can get Batman. And on that note, I'm gonna catch y'all later. Peace.
All right, bro.
All right, man.
Will, what about you, man? What do you think? Do we need more Batman games?
All right, I'm gonna just keep it straight up. Do we need more Batman games? No, not at all. But are they gonna make them? Yes.
Oh yeah.
They gonna make them because that's where the money is. For the love of money, that's where they gonna get
that money, man.
Yeah,
my bad.
You good. But hey, that's what they gonna do. I don't think we need them. And Devin said it best. They got all these characters within this universe, and they just sit here and be like, Bruce Wayne, Batman, Gotham, Darkness, him. It's like, I hate to say it. The best way for me to put it is this. They got a dartboard, but it's nothing but Batman's face on it. And they putting the blindfold on, hoping to hit something different, but they keep hitting Batman. So they just, Batman, cool, that's what we doing. Batman, cool, that's what we doing. I'm just like, where's Superman at? Where Green Lantern at? Because I had to remember that they made that Green Lantern game, Rise of the Manhunters, on Xbox. I had to remember that. I was like, oh man, they made that. And it wasn't about shit. So I'm just like, y'all got all these different heroes that I've seen in my lifetime from DC, and y'all still ain't made them a game. And then y'all still letting Superman rot and fester behind a game on the Nintendo 64. It is 2025. Get that man a damn game. Clark Kent been waiting for too long. Kal-El needs a game, goddammit.
Again, I say there have been other Superman games. You had
I know
they had the one game, Superman Returns, like that one. That one they tried to do something unique. I don't do this again. Like if you work on a Superman game, if any developer sees this, don't ever do this. It was like, oh, Superman's invulnerable, but if the city takes too much damage, that's when you get the game over. I'm like, no.
Yeah, I get it.
I get
it too. Yeah,
but yeah,
you're doing too much. And then like the one that Devin brought up, the Xbox game, like Superman on Xbox, that was another one that they tried to do, and it was like more comic book focused, and it was going to be just like true to the comics and stuff like that, and that didn't work out either. And so it's like, okay, well, like I said, like people didn't want to talk about the mediocre games. They like, I just want to talk about what's trash.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I gotta ask this? Didn't Aquaman 2 also have a game somewhere along the line? Didn't he have one?
He had a game.
Aquaman
Boy
had
Advance game.
He had an Xbox. Well, the game that he's notoriously known for that I feel like people have kind of forgotten about that was also really, really bad was the Aquaman game that came out during the PS2, GameCube, Xbox era. The one where he had like the blonde hair, but the hair was like had its own like I think physics going on, and it was just
okay.
Like I forgot what that game was called. I'll look it up. But
Battle for Atlantis.
Okay, that is it. That is it. Yeah, that game was known for being ass. Straight bad.
Yeah.
I think that adds to it too. If you think about it, like just the fact that there were so many licensed games that were bad.
And see, that's the thing. That was back when the whole licensed game curse was a thing. Like, a licensed game automatically equaled bad, but we're past that now. So
yeah.
You should have known this game was gonna be trash. It's about Lucky Chicken Games.
Lucky Chicken?
Hey man, sometimes chickens get lucky.
Not this time.
Apparently they didn't.
Never mind.
But yeah, it's too much. Like Batman got all the success. Superman is being held accountable for something that happened over 2 decades ago. Wonder Woman got snipped. Aquaman is cursed. Green Lantern has been cursed. If y'all can't find another hero within the DC universe, I'm just gonna be honest with you. Y'all are choosing to like not try at this point. That's what I feel. It's not for a lack of trying. It's for a want of just not wanting to fail because they feel Batman will continuously get them the money that they need. And I get it because Batman is popular. But these other heroes deserve some shine. And at this time, it's either you get this get a Flash game out of something, bro, please. And I ain't talking about the old. I ain't talking about old Macromedia shit. Get the Flash a game.
Oh, the Flash. I thought you did be.
I'll send you
Flash no more.
Just saying. Get the Flash a game. Get somebody a game, goddammit. I'm tired of Bruce. I love him, but I'm tired of him.
They're gonna mess around and make a hit with Jonah Hicks.
That would be cool too. You can get away with that. Like it'd be easy to do it like a Western game, like a weird West type Western game where he's got like the gun. Yeah, I can see the cover already. Just him snarling with the gun in his hand.
Ugly face, yeah.
Ugly face, yeah. I mean, you could definitely make that game.
I feel like I could be wrong, but I feel like they made a Jonah Hex game at one point, or maybe there was one in discussion to be made. But, this was back when I think the movie came out, which I mean the movie came out and that movie was bad, so you know.
Okay.
So like PS2.
Yeah.
I was like, you thinking about Dark Watch? That was a Capcom game.
Oh, I'm not thinking about that. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, you're right.
Hey, Dark Watch was lit,
well, that's even more reason why a game like that would exist, because during that time you had a lot of those more like gritty, kind of like Western style shooters.
Gungrave.
Yeah, I mean, of course, Red Dead, Revolver at the time. So,
yeah.
Superman had 4 games after Superman 64.
Nobody wants to talk about
all
those.
of them was trash.
Nobody wants to talk about those though.
The last one was the best one. That was, I mean, like Superman Returns. That's the one that I was talking about. Like that one was probably the best received, but even that, it's like 50s or something like that. So I mean,
dang, that's the best received.
I mean, the one that Devin was talking about on Xbox, that one got 40s.
Oh, that's pretty bad.
And then there was one on the Game Boy Advance. Of course, that was trash.
Yeah.
They used to make a lot of Superman games or like a lot of superhero games because Green Lantern had one. The Justice League had a video game. That shit was ass. They had 2 because they had one that was like Marvel Ultimate Alliance. They had a knockoff version. They had their own Marvel Ultimate Alliance game.
They had a Young Justice game.
They did have a Young Justice game.
To be honest, I just thought about it. Really, the most successful DC game like that's been long running was DC Online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Far and away.
True. Yeah.
They never hit that success again. Which is
my little brother's favorite MMO of all time. He played that game every day. He loved that game. We all played it. So shit.
Yeah.
Can't blame.
I did play DCU Online. I just ultimately the framework of an MMO just don't sit right with me. I want to affect more change on the world as a hero.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do. As far as superhero games go, I would like it if someone finally made a superhero game that was like an original universe that's not DC or Marvel, where it's just like you make your own superhero. You get to choose between, maybe 3 or 4 superhero teams. Join a superhero team. You have your own nemesis. You have your own like that. That seems like it has a lot of mileage. I'm shocked that nobody's ever tried.
Single player City of Heroes.
Yes, exactly.
And
City of Heroes was a big hit.
I hadn't heard that in a while. City of
Heroes.
I know, right?
Man, it's been a while.
Jesus.
City of Heroes, City of Villains. Man, I remember those days.
Oh yeah.
Terrence,
what about you, man? What do you think? Do we need another Batman game?
I mean, we don't need one, but we're gonna get one.
We're gonna get one.
That's kind of
pretty much.
thing. Now
we just got one VR.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah,
Damn,
and that game,
right.
I mean, like that game was very well received. Like it got like 8s and 9s and stuff like that. So
yeah. Now I will say the rumors that I've heard, and maybe you've heard more than I have, Sage, is that they're potentially looking to do like Batman Beyond. Do you know if there's any truth to that?
No, I can guarantee you that that's not happening.
Well,
they didn't want to do a Batman Beyond cartoon movie. You think they're gonna put 60 to 100 million plus into a Batman Beyond video game?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. But kind of like the way that you all were talking earlier is that you would like to see something different out of this series, not just a return to Arkham.
Yeah.
I feel like for me, that would be great too. Is like, I would love to see like a Batman Beyond game where you're not just focusing on Bruce. What's up?
If you remember, before Gotham Knights, Warner Brothers Montreal was working on a Batman game following Damian Wayne as Batman, set in the future. It was supposed to be futuristic. He's gonna have like a motorcycle. He's gonna fight like futuristic versions of the Gotham villains. And then they were like, you know what? Fuck that shit.
Damn, y'all.
Yeah, I mean that just sucks because there's another angle to this where since Kevin Conroy's gone, you're not getting him as Batman again. So it kind of would be nice if I mean, obviously you can have somebody else play Bruce, but if you had somebody as like a different Batman, that would be a nice way to transition from like the Arkham universe and kind of like trying something a little different. But I get it. Right now, WB, their focus is on being safe. They're going to make the safest choices possible right now to get them the most return. And it's just going to be another Arkham style Batman game. Probably there'll be some updates to it. I'm sure Rocksteady will figure it out, hopefully. But yeah, we're going to get another just traditional Batman game, unfortunately. I do think the idea that Rakeem, that you mentioned earlier about essentially like a Brave and the Bold style game, I think that would be dope. I think that would be really cool. Hopefully they do something like that, but the safe bet is that it's just going to be just Batman by himself, and because that's just what they know is going to work and it's what's going to sell. So yeah, it's
crazy. It's crazy too, Terrence. And even I was thinking about, like, there's got to be some Batman fatigue at this point. That Superman trailer came out. Every comment, there's some positive comments. Every single comment section I saw was always one person. No, man, they got to focus on Batman first. I'm like, bro, he just had a movie.
He's going to get another movie.
Every single comment section I went into, there was at least one reply. Even people I knew, like Jay Black, he was like, no, man, Batman, that's the one you got to focus on. I'm like, bruh.
No.
Enough. It's not enough.
It is enough.
Batman just has a stranglehold on people.
I've had enough. Too many Batman games. I've had enough.
It's a shame because Superman for the longest time was considered like the flagship DC character.
Until 1989, Superman was the flagship DC character.
Yeah, and now we're at like pretty much like you said. And now it's the point where Batman is pretty much associated with DC. And it's like, what happened, man? I don't know.
Now you got people coming up with all these trash ass like theories, like, oh, the reason why is because Batman is more like a Marvel character and Marvel is more in touch with like Marvel is making all types of characters work no matter who it is. Like a Miss Marvel, they made Miss Marvel work for the TV show. They made Guardians of the Galaxy work. That's more like DC, really, like as far as like being outer space and not really being street level at all. Yeah. Like they made all these characters work. They didn't have a problem. Like all these superheroes can work if you make it good. And if it's not good, it's going to fail. So yeah. And like it's kind of like it's really like wrestling, and Rakeem was gonna know exactly what I'm talking about. If you have a wrestler and you don't push them, then no, they're never gonna be anything. And if you push them and you push them in shitty angles and storylines, then they're not gonna be anything. And if you have a character that is not well known and you keep putting them in mediocre game and mediocre movies and nobody's gonna care. But if you do what you're supposed to do, and you take advantage of like a little bit of momentum, like, oh, this character is kind of popping off in the comic books. Okay, well, let's get them in a movie. Let's get them in a game and make those games good. Make the game good. Make the movie good. That character will grow, and eventually they'll have the same kind of popularity. It's just like pushing a wrestler. You get a little bit of fire, and then you just keep pushing them and keep putting them in high quality angles, and eventually they like a top character. And so, like, if the fact that DC or specifically Warner Brothers is just like, no, we're just gonna go back to Batman. And I know Terrence was brought this up like, oh, well, Kevin Conroy is gone. I mean, they had a backup plan for that before Kevin Conroy even passed away. Long before.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because they had Roger Craig Smith do Arkham Origins.
Yeah, they definitely did, yeah.
And he also did the voice for Arkham Shadow, which made sense because by that point, everybody was like, oh, well, you did Arkham Origins, so why not?
Yeah. No, I mean, anybody could, play. It's just that there's just that angle to it where, Kevin Conroy is associated with Arkham Batman, and you're just not getting that, that iconic voice for the character anymore. But yeah, you're definitely going to have more Batman voices. I mean, hell, there's plenty of other Batman media where Kevin Conroy didn't voice him. That was even before his passing. So, it is what it is.
Yeah. Even Jensen Ackles voiced Batman.
Oh, man, I forgot about that. But yeah, you're right.
Oh, yeah, true.
When do you do that?
It's in one of the animated movies. I think it was
one of the animated movies.
Oh, you mean Red Hood, where he voiced the Red Hood? That's what you're talking about, right?
He also did a Batman movie.
Oh, he did.
He played Batman in one.
One of them did it.
I know there was like fan casting for a long time where people wanted Jensen.
The Long Halloween.
Long Halloween. That's what.
Okay.
It was.
Okay. There we go. Okay. Cool.
Apparently, he was Batman in Long Halloween, a Legion of Superheroes movie, and Justice League War World. So he's had some experience playing
Multiple.
Batman. Not really surprised. But all right, I think that's gonna wrap this week up. What do you think Warner Brothers should do next in their video games division? Leave us a comment. Let us know. If you're new to this and you like this episode, I need you to do a few things for us. I need you to hit that like button. I need you to subscribe. I need you to tell your friends about us. And I need you to do me a personal favor. Have an excellent week. Peace.
Get it together, WB.